I talked to Ryan yesterday. Oh, you guys don't know.
I feel like I know him through your stories.
He is now going to be a firefighter in Oregon this summer.
Wow.
Wow.
Yikes.
Well, good afternoon.
Yeah.
I'm Norm Higgins, Chair of the Maine Charter School Commission. I want to welcome everybody to our meeting this afternoon, Tuesday, March 11th at 1 o'clock. The attendance, Sue, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, thank you. I'll call this meeting officially to order then. Before we do, I want to make sure that have an opportunity to review our vision and mission. Tom, would you read that for us, please?
Sure. The vision of the Maine Charter School Commission is that innovative public charter schools will provide Maine students with an equitable opportunity for an excellent education where students are valued, supported, and challenged. The mission of the Maine Charter School Commission is to authorize, monitor, and support innovative public charter schools that provide a dynamic, high-quality education for every student.
Thank you. I think it's important to remind ourselves of that before every meeting to help guide us in our discussions. Thank you. Next order of business is the approval of the February 11th, 25 commission meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion, any omissions, corrections? Hearing none. Amy, do you want to take a vote?
Absolutely. Jim Handy,
Yes.
Tom Keller,
Aye.
Tori Cornfield,
Yes.
Brian Langley,
Yes.
Norm Higgins.
Yes. It is a vote. Thank you. Next order of business is comments from the commission chair. Two or three things I want to report on. One of which is I met with the chairs of the education committee to discuss reporting to them. They are, I think, feeling the pressure of trying to move through legislation, which is understandable. So we don't have a specific date. So I asked Lana and Amy to submit the written copies to them so that we will have fulfilled our statutory requirements. We will have reported, just not in person. And hopefully at a future date, we'll have an opportunity to have a conversation. So that's in progress, I believe.
Yeah, I sent it and CC'd the commission on the annual report.
Okay, thank you. We've not heard anything from the governor's office on reappointments. I've not heard anything since our last meeting. But I will follow up and ask what the time frame is. I think is what we're looking at. More than the process, the time frame. Some legislation. Tomorrow there's a bill that Gary Drinkwater put in from Milford. We were unaware that he had submitted the bill until we read it, which was to increase the number of charter schools by 1. That's testimony is tomorrow. There's other bills that are waiting. The DAF bill on the organization of the Charter School Commission has not been referred to committee. So we're waiting to see what will in fact be when and what will be referred to committees. I want you to know that I'm testifying tomorrow on a bill that has nothing to do with charter schools. And I'll make sure the committee knows that. I don't want them to confuse. But the bill is on addressing the academic needs of students who are enrolled in high schools with under 200 students. I think you might find interesting, as I did, there are actually 38 under 200. The ones, 14 of them, the lowest 14, would fit inside Scarborough High School. So you're beginning to get a sense of the challenges these schools have. My purpose is simply to raise the level of awareness. I think it will do that. I'm not expecting we'll see any substantive work done on it. But the first thing I think you have to do is be aware there's an issue before you begin to address what the possible solutions might be to it. So it'll be interesting, the response, I think. The other thing is that became very apparent to me is that the 13 representatives on the Education Committee all represent basically large high schools. So only two of the representatives have high schools under 500. The other 11 are on high schools over 500. So it's reasonable to understand why that might not be an issue that is raised to a level of conversation. But anyway, wanted to let you know that. There's a bill on experiential learning, agriculture, seed, et cetera, before the Agriculture Committee on Thursday. And ELC and Means are both going to be there to testify about their experiences and the programs they have. I think it'll be a great show and tell for them. I've notified the chairs of the committee, Bill Pluger and Rachel Talbot Ross. And I'm not quite sure the purpose of the bill. Seems a little unclear to me. It has a unique list of sponsors from a variety of political perspectives. So I think it'll be interesting. I'm not sure where that bill is intended to go, but we'll have 2 schools with kids and teachers and be a great civics experience for them, if nothing else. So I think that's all I have to report on. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Okay, move on. Any additions or adjustments to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay. Committee report, school performance, Tori?
Yes, we spent the bulk of
I
our time.
bet you're right in mid slow.
Yep. We spent the majority of our time on the midterm reports, going through. We've seen each of them individually, but we went through each school again,
Thank you.
and we really supported Lana's decision to put CRCS on an improvement plan. Was there anything else, Tom? Jim?
That's pretty much it.
In my update, I'll talk more about the mid-year reports, just to
Okay.
give the commission like a summary of the performance.
Okay. And we did have an opinion on the which of the online schools wanted to.
BFA.
Did you want to talk about that too?
I can, or you can, whatever you prefer.
You can talk about it. We had an opinion on that too, but you'll hear about it later.
Sure, yeah, I'll add that to my notes.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? Comments, whatever? Okay, let's move on to Finance Committee.
Great, so Brian is gonna take this one. Thank you so much, Brian. And then I know, I believe Joe is here also with some supporting ideas.
Okay, welcome, Brian.
Hey, good to see you all. We met on the 6th of March. We opened up the meeting, listening to Travis from CRCS, do an update on their expansion process. Also, spent some time talking about their their core of teachers, turnover rates, salary schedules that they're proposing and how they're looking to be competitive in these upcoming years. We talked about an organizational status update, the potential reclassification of the Charter Commission as a public instrumentality, and about the bill sponsored by Senator Rafferty. Some of the key points of that would provide more autonomy from the state systems. Potential benefits would be having our own bank account, direct state funding as a vendor, independent credit cards and payroll, external audit requirements. And as I was trying to sort of grasp with the quasi public private nature of this, it's very much like the Maine Wild Blueberry Commission. So yeah, the blueberry folks. We went into budget projections for 2026, looking at a 5% overall expense increase, some salary increases, technology investments, potential new insurance costs, then some potential strategic investments, professional development, targeted leadership training, quarterly board development, sessions, executive leadership skill enhancement, marketing and public relations, talked about contracting with PLT strategies to develop school-specific marketing materials. We then went into preparing for the Hall of Flags events in May, talked about potential funding opportunities, the charter school program, CSP grant, diagnostic assessment pilot program. And then we ended up talking about the financial health indicators of our schools. 83% of the performance measures are in the low to moderate risk, but declined from 89% in the previous fiscal year. High risk scores increased by 8 to 17%. With these schools that were of concern, Baxter, that multiple high risk financial indicators, potential calculation discrepancies there, though, that are under review. Acadia has cash flow challenges, but those are enrollment composition concerns. Talked about lack of food service programs and their effect. Fiddlehead intentionally under enrolling. They also don't have a food service program and the potential attendance impact. Emerging strategic challenges, enrollment diversity, socioeconomic representation. We mirrored local public school demographics, correlation between nutrition and attendance, between food service and student engagement. Only 2 schools, Acadia and Fiddlehead, that lack food programs. We went into teacher retention and some salary scales. I think talked about salary increases to $45,000 being competitive with local school districts. Let's see what else we got here. I guess comprehensive budget review in April. Detailed analysis of food service impact on enrollment, continued financial monitoring of high-risk schools, developing targeted support for schools with financial stress. Ultimately, though, cautiously optimistic about fiscal stability, and then strategic investments aimed at long-term sustainability. So that was kind of about it. It was a pretty busy meeting.
That's a lot. Is James with us today?
I'm not sure. Oh, yes, I see him.
Yeah. James, do you have anything you want to add to that?
That's pretty thorough. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. And I believe we have Joe with us. Joe, do you want to add in the text about the Q2 school financials or anything else?
Just update you.
I see, Joe. Thank you.
We've got audits still outstanding. Baxter, Acadia and Means we haven't received theirs. They're due on the 31st. So I hope we'll see those. This is going to be the audit for 6/30 of 24.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Do you have questions for Brian? That's a lot.
A lot of information.
And thank you for being thorough, Brian. I appreciate that. Tom?
One of the issues with teacher contracts is that a teacher contract is not necessarily universal. You know, some are 175 days, some are 180, some are even 200. So you need to look at that if you're trying to compare apples to apples.
Yeah, Acadia has an extended contract, correct?
Yes,
Don't they, in the summertime?
for the summertime too. Yeah.
So to your point,
Right.
I don't know if they get paid the same for those extra days or not. I have no idea, actually.
I don't either. But, you know, just to talk about teacher contract isn't necessarily, specifically accurate because there is this variability and you just can't say, here's the number because you don't know how many days that's for.
Right. Whereas in public schools, it's pretty standard overall.
Pretty standard, except there are some schools that are up to 190 days now.
Wow.
Yeah. Teacher contract is 190 days. So, you know, it looks like they're paying their teachers a lot more, but they're
Right. Per diem, maybe not.
right. Yeah.
Good point. Thank you, Tom. Any other comments? You're working on the budget, and what I understand.
Yes, that's right. We are working on the budget. We are working on 2 drafts. One, if we are not reclassified and remain as we are. And then one, if there is a reclassification, because that'll have implications for money. And one of the more exciting things with the budget that we're looking at right now is what Brian alluded to in terms of some of the investments that we could make for the future. And thinking about professional development for board chairs, school leaders, well, boards in general, some other ideas. So we're going to have those ready to bring to the commission for the April meeting to get your feedback on those ideas.
So when the bill comes up for us to testify in favor,
Yes.
will you be able to identify I'm not sure the right term is cost savings.
Yes.
The cost savings that can then be reallocated to provide for things like professional development and innovation,
Yep.
grants, et cetera.
And support the schools directly. Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah, we'll have a dollar amount.
Because I think the committee will want to know what are the benefits of doing that other than simplifying and making the operation maybe easier to do.
Yes.
But what's the real benefit for schools and students and teachers? So I would think is a question. I would ask that question at least.
It's a great point. We'll be prepared to talk about that. I appreciate
I
that.
think when you think they'd want to, that would be an obvious question, I would think.
Great.
Not that they don't want us to have a more efficient operation, but
Yeah, the cost savings is a real big driver of this.
I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Are we able now to accept grant funds from external agencies?
Mhm.
Okay, and with the change, we will be as well.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Is that something the commission's ever focused on?
Before my time, I know the commission thought about applying for a CSP grant, the Charter School Program of federal money, which authorizers are available. They're one of the allowed recipients of that. States authorizers directly to schools. That grant is an awful lot of money usually that you get, and it's an awful lot of work that goes into putting it together. And then also the reporting requirements after you get it is pretty extensive. So sometimes people shy away from it for that reason. Those grants are usually given, almost always given to authorizers who are growing. And because Maine hasn't been in a position to grow because of the cap, we haven't seriously considered that. We're talking a little bit more about it for next year, if there'd be a way to apply for that, that grant.
Are there other grants, I wonder, or foundations that, I don't have a suggestion on what, but, or what the target would be.
Yeah,
But one of the things that comes to my mind, our performance levels. There's some intensive professional development activities that would help move the needle, if you will.
Yeah.
Focus it. That's just one off, and maybe there are others as well, but you know, we may not be a big enough organization to go after some of these big elephants out there, but you know, other pieces we can bite off somewhere. Because right now we have no idea what's even gonna be in the pool.
Yeah, it would be a neat thing to look into more.
So
Yeah.
people wise just to say, but it's an interesting concept for us to think about.
Absolutely.
And maybe not just charter school pots, but there may be other private funds
Sure.
that might be available that we could tag it.
Yeah.
Or maybe
Absolutely.
we could help. Just brainstorming here in my own mind. Perhaps we could help some of our schools find other resources as well.
We've
I
been talking
know
about that.
Heather's pretty good at that.
Well, and you're gonna hear from Travis today
In
about,
fact, so,
about
you
the
know,
work they've done there.
I mean, our schools are working hard to find those supplemental funds.
They are.
So if, I guess my point would be is if we get it as a commission, could find some pools of money that might address issues that generally cut across all of our schools. Rather than a particularly targeted school.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if we can help do that, that's good too.
Great. Yeah, thank you
Okay.
for that.
Anything else on finance committee? I don't think we have anything really to report on executive committee. We talked some about the legislation and anything else you can think of, Tori, that we?
We talked a lot on the legislation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was our big issue.
So we'll move on to ad hoc new school application. Lana, your report on?
I do. So we have an ad hoc committee, the new charter school review committee, and I'm going to provide an update on that. I'm going to look at my notes here. It's a little bit of an extended update because we have 2 applications that were received. And so I want to give a summary of what those are and what they look like and the process that we're using to review them. After this meeting today, I will email you all on the commission the 2 full applications with the attachments. They are each about 300 to 400 pages long. So it'll give you something to do.
I've forgotten, it's Wabanaki and what's the other one?
The MOXIE school. And I'll give a little,
Oh,
I'll give a
alright. summary
summary of what they are. And then also after this meeting, we'll post those to our website so that they will be public documents that anyone can take a look at. Brief summary on both. So the 2 applications, one of them is for the Wabanaki Hybrid High School. That was submitted by Reza Naman, who's the superintendent of Maine Indian Education. He proposes in his application a high school that would begin in year 1 with 25 students in grades 9 and 10 and expand to 9 through 12 with 100 students total, so relatively small school. The proposal combines for the educational model virtual instruction for core academic subjects using an ESP called proximity learning with in-person. So it's truly hybrid in the afternoons, cultural knowledge building. So traditional knowledge and contemporary skills kind of blended together in this proposal. And the currently proposed location for the in-person components of the program are Indian Island and Old Town. A brief summary there. The other application is for the MOXIE school, and that was submitted by Beth Rabbit, who is the CEO of the Learning Accelerator, although she, as a private citizen and group, is doing the application, not as part of the Learning Accelerator. This school is for 6th through 12th grade students at full scale, and they would start with grades 6 and 9 in year 1 with 120 students and grow to expand to the 6-12 over time with 420 students. They designed their program model to serve students who primarily traditionally are underserved. So particularly those who are new to our communities. So new Mainers, new Americans, students who are highly mobile, and also are cognitively diverse. The school model provides
Highly mobile, meaning,
transient, so transition, around
Oh.
Maine, kind of across state borders.
Okay.
The school will provide personalization, real-world inquiry-based learning, connected support networks, and whole self-development. So in this proposal, there's a focus on academics, strong academics, and also the kind of deep partnerships with career and tech in the community, where students doing internships, sort of learning outside of the classroom as well. The school proposes to locate in the Westbrook, Greater Portland area to best enroll their target student populations, and ideally over time would like to incorporate 2 to 4 additional other kind of satellite campuses throughout the state. I want to give a summary of all the work the review committee is doing, but any questions about those applications?
is that a established school somewhere else?
It is not, but the founding team has deep experience founding schools other places.
So MOXIE School is just,
It's a new concept. Yep. Based in a lot of functioning programs elsewhere.
I wanted to mention, Amy was part of the review process of, was all the material complete? Not an evaluative piece, but a checkoff.
Yeah.
Do you have the full packet?
And then schools get 5 days to
So
respond.
Amy called me because there was some concerns about meeting some timeframes. So I gave her, in my review capacity that I think I was given, I gave her the direction as there would be no extensions. There was a timeframe. How complete it was, that was not up for her to decide, or, that's what the review team would be doing. But her job was to make sure all of the components were checked off. Not how good or how long or any of that, but everything had to be checked. So she notified Maine Indian Education that there were components that needed to be completed and the specific time frame in which it had to be accomplished. And to my knowledge, obviously, they were all checked off. But there were some revisions they wanted to make. And my point was, we're past the revision point. You can offer those revisions when the review team meets with you. In terms of, I think one of them was the implementation date.
Yep.
So you submitted, this is what it is. I'm not going to go back in the last 24 hours, start reviewing the application. So if you want to change the date to 2027, share that with the review team. And they can weigh that in their review process.
Yep.
So I wanted you to know that I did do that. I think I gave the right answers, and not trying to, I wanted to make sure it wasn't about us trying to kind of nitpick and reject a proposal because one of 64 items wasn't checked off. But on the other hand, the requirement was that you would have a complete application. And to do otherwise, I felt gave them a competitive advantage.
Mhm.
So.
Yep, thank you for that. Yes,
So with the Wabanaki school, I was just looking it up, right? As I recall, yeah, 2 of the schools are down east. How are those kids gonna get to Old Town for the in-person work?
that is one of my questions that I have
Okay.
for the team.
Okay.
Yeah, there were a number of, for both applications, this is why we do the capacity interviews, the commission interviews, the public hearings. There are opportunities we're gonna have to get answers to those questions, but that is a really important one that you're
Yeah.
bringing up.
Good, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer to that. What did you say about the down east schools?
So
It's a continuing question.
Oh,
and how they will get kids to Old Town for,
but that's the intention.
That's the intention, as I understand it. It was not clear in the application, so we're gonna ask that question in the capacity interview.
They also have a significant Micmac population in the Holton area.
good point.
Generally, we focus down east in Indian Island, but there is another component. There's a third tribe here.
Yeah.
That's part of Maine Indian education.
Where do their kids go to school now?
I think mostly Holton.
Holton, okay,
It's not a large population.
yeah,
I think most of them are actually on the other side of the border,
got it.
as I understand it, but I have no idea how large it is. But I know I was on a review team at Holton High School a few years ago, and I was unaware there was a tribe in the Holton area. So I don't think it's a very big population. But it is there's 3 parts to Maine Indian education. It's Passamaquoddies, Penobscots, and Micmacs.
So the transportation question is a real one that we need to better understand before we could kind of seriously evaluate that part of the
At
application.
one point, didn't they want a overnight school?
That's not part of this proposal.
Okay.
But there was a discussion about that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
So the review committee, as I mentioned, is hard at work. So Lee and Brian and then Joe is looking at the financial sections, and myself. We all participated in a really great training with David Hartman. Norm was there for that too, who taught us how to do a unbiased, thorough review using our rubric. I want to just give like a really big shout out to especially Brian and Lee. The application review, the individual ones have been complete, and it has been an absolute ton of work. Just to paint a little bit of a picture, each application is about 300 to 400 pages long. They take individually per person about 10 to 15 hours to review and look at. We're starting to kind of estimate. And the rubric alone, without being even filled in, is 64 pages long. So you're kind of going through the long rubric. Each individual row gets its own score. Then there are questions and comments that you include for each section. So it's very thorough, which I think is good because it respects the incredible work that went into applications from the applicant parties. And Brian and Lee are really doing an incredible job of putting a ton of work into these. So huge shout out to them and to Joe Drago. So in addition to that individual review, our team, the review team, meets together several times to discuss the applications in detail. So we're actually meeting this week to hold our first consensus meeting where we're going to be comparing our different scores, our individual scores, and coming to consensus, ideally. And then we're preparing in that meeting the questions that we're going to be asking the founding teams, the school teams, in their capacity interviews, which happen next week. So those capacity interviews are like a very important time for the review team to ask the kind of questions that you're bringing up now, the holes in the applications and where they might not have gotten kind of 3s in each rubric category. So in addition to that opportunity, for the applicants to share their abilities and behaviors with the team, and their ability to operate a great school, we're also going to be doing a performance task for each school. So each school team gets 2 hours for their interview. 30 minutes of that is going to be a performance task where we give them an activity to do as a team in front of us. And then we give them feedback on it, evaluate it on it, so we can see kind of team dynamics, how they're working together. It's going to be something to do with kind of a problem that might occur in your startup year originally and how you might for that. So I'm looking forward to that. That was a recommendation from NACSA. We started incorporating performance tasks into capacity interviews. Then the review team will meet again after the capacity interviews to determine which applications, one, all, none, will move forward to be finalists. And then in April, the review team will come to the commission with the recommendation for who are going to be finalists in the review process. Those finalists then get a commission interview. So the full commission will have an opportunity to interview the finalists. So we'll get those scheduled once we know if there are finalists and who they are. And then there's public hearings after that as well.
When would that take place, the commission's involvement as a whole,
We're going to need to find a date, you know, in April,
outside of the?
outside of a commission meeting, most likely. Yeah, we're going to try and get those scheduled just because of the timing of everything.
So how long would you anticipate? Would that be a 2-hour meeting or something of that nature?
I don't think that long. I think it depends on how many applicants we have at that point in the process.
Would it be possible to streamline our regular meeting?
Potentially, we should
Could
probably
we
talk more about that.
talk about that? Maybe we could push some people off to May.
Yeah,
I'm not sure even what, I have no idea what we typically would have on the April meeting.
yeah.
May is probably budget, I'm guessing.
Well, May is when the vote is for the,
I mean,
well,
other work,
yeah, and the budget. Yeah,
that might take some time.
we can look at that. April.
Let's take a look at, see
Yeah.
if we can, because people have this date in their calendars. So trying to find another date may be probably.
Is tricky. Yeah,
I would, even if we meant, you know, we're typically doing these meetings in 2 hours or a little less. Maybe we let the commission members know this might be a 3-hour meeting. I think, for me at least, I think it'd be
preferable to,
preferable rather than for people to have to find another common time in their schedule. I don't know, how do you? Feel?
I agree.
If we knew in advance.
Yeah.
I knew, well, okay, I'm gonna be in at 4 o'clock, but, okay,
Yeah,
I'll
that's
just
fine.
factor that in.
I'm all favor of if we have to extend our time working on either the application or the interview and our regular meeting. I don't have a problem. Keeping it on one of those dates is really an important consideration, I think.
great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that help some?
That's great.
We can talk about what else is on the agenda and see what we can streamline or move to the May date perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's a great suggestion.
Okay, well, we'll take a look and see, do our best to try to find something on that.
That's great. Any other, I have other updates, but any other questions about, well, I guess actually I don't for review committee. Any questions about the review committee? Or the applications?
I'm just curious about the name, Moxie, where that came from.
You know, there's a section of their application that explains it better than I'm gonna be able to. So I think one part was that just definition of the word, not the soda,
Yeah.
right? But just in terms of
Moxie,
having Moxie.
yeah,
And then there was another component of it that actually came from a Native American word that I'm forgetting,
oh,
that also meant something
True.
great,
oh.
which I'm forgetting now. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
So
Of course, you would want to know the like epidemiology of the word.
The drinks probably came from the Native American name.
Perhaps, I'm not sure.
I know that somebody's probably been attending the Moxie Festival in Lisbon every year, you know. Don't they still have that up
Yeah,
there?
sure do.
Yeah, Gina Mason used to be
That's
the
right.
person that was in charge of that. God bless her. Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Not for ad hoc review committee. I'll have some other updates when we get to the other section.
Okay, next section is public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience that's commenting today? Travis?
Yeah, I just wanted to let the commission know that we did apply earlier last spring and we were awarded a USDA distance learning grant through the Morrow Foundation, which is Morrow partners with schools and districts to support student success through like screening and family engagement. It's a platform connecting families and kids and staff for mental health reasons. So they have digital parent consents, they screen and refer kids, they have educational resources, family engagement, data-driven results, but they really work with mental health for not only kids, but families and staff. So it was about a $90,000 grant.
Congratulations.
So we're really excited that that's moving through the USDA channels. So it's been a little bumpy with some of the USDA changes with their offices, but we're getting ready to release the formal public release pretty soon. So I'll let you guys know.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Travis? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
We'll be anxious to see how it rolls out.
Yeah.
Keep us informed.
Yeah, there's only 10 schools that Mara was looking at partnering with across the United States, and we were one of 10.
Terrific. Thank
So,
you.
We're really excited.
So Heather, you going to be quiet or do you have something to say?
I think Lana has all my updates.
Oh,
Because I didn't know if I was gonna make it today.
okay. Well, welcome anyway. We're always glad to see you.
Yeah, I could say the Kennebec Savings and Rural Development visited my building today to check on construction, so that
Oh,
was.
did they?
Yep, and the drywaller's coming today, so that's good news. Moving along.
Every time I see the show Maine Life and I see Kennebec Savings, I think of you. Yeah. So that's great. Well, you're back on task here, right?
Yeah, and I probably, Norm, if you don't mind, I should have asked Brian if he, Brian, did you have anything to add to the review committee report out? I'm sorry, I kind of skipped over you there.
It's quite all right. You're absolutely right. So a ton of work. 300 pages or so for each one. Both are uniquely different, so it's been quite interesting to go through the review. So we'll just continue on with the rest of the process and see where we end up for recommendations.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the work. It counts.
Sorry to interrupt. I just forgotten that I
Back to you, Lana.
should have Oh, is it me again?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. So I have some updates for you. Let's start with school updates. So Heather, I am going to give your updates, but if you have anything to add, feel free to jump in since you're here. So I learned from Heather that there's been some exciting events happening lately at Maine Arts. So there were music students who performed in a school recital and dance students who performed in collaboration with Colby College and Portland Ballet Company at the Westbrook Performing Arts Center.
Oh, terrific.
And then also the school dance and visual arts students presented at the State House for the Arts Advocacy Day. And they were invited by the Maine Arts Alliance to do so. And it was a full day event. And the school's photography, visual arts, and dance students all had live demos and their admissions department set up a table, which I thought was smart. Thanks for providing those up.
Bates was there yesterday.
And Bates was there
Bates
yesterday.
visited yesterday. They did a workshop with our dancers.
Right.
Great.
Also, on behalf of Heather, I'd like to extend an invitation to their ribbon cutting ceremony for the entire expansion of their middle school auditorium and new dance studio, which is going to be in October 22nd, which I believe is a Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. And you're all invited.
It's during a business after hours. So the chamber is going to combine the ribbon cutting with the business after hours. So we're hosting both. It's great.
Will you be inviting the governor?
I could. Would you think that would be a good idea?
I would be more than willing, the rest of us, to help facilitate that. I think she'd enjoy it.
That'd be great.
So,
In her job, she doesn't get to enjoy a lot, but I think she would enjoy this, so.
She is a poet. She writes a lot of poetry.
Yeah.
If you listen to her speeches, they're very poetic.
I would love to have her. That'd be great.
I think in her position of governor, that would be more than appropriate. It's not a political statement. It's an opportunity for the leader of the state of Maine to come and thank you for the good work you're doing.
Should I reach out and try to invite her, or would I talk to Lana, or? How do I?
I would ask you if you have any particular relationship there to.
Maybe Tori and I, or Brian, or those of us who've been legislators, maybe we could reach out to the governor and invite her on your behalf. Would that be okay?
That would be lovely. That'd be
Okay,
wonderful.
we'll figure out how to make that connection.
Okay.
Try to get it on our calendar.
Great.
Back to you.
Thank you. A couple other school updates. So Baxter is a finalist for the Education Innovation Award from Building Hope. Finalists are being interviewed now and winners are going to be announced, I think, later in March. The top award is for $20,000 and their two runners up received $10,000. So exciting that they're in the final stages for that grant. And then Means wanted to extend the invitation to welcome you all to their school for Maine Maple Sunday. So they're an official maple sugar producer, and they're going to be doing student-led demonstrations, tastings. They're going to hand out, homemade maple donuts. And that's going to be in the morning from 9 to 12 on Sunday, March 23rd. So I can follow up with an email if you're interested in stopping by Means for some maple donuts. Few organizational updates that I have for you today. More than a few. We don't have anything to vote on today, so I really took advantage. I wanted to provide a summary of the mid-year meeting reports. Thank you to the School Performance Committee for reviewing those in such great detail. We took about 2 hours during the committee meeting to go through each school. Thank you to Amy for writing those reports. You received a summary of all of those reports in your packet. So in general, I wanted to give just a little bit more context on that summary. So the portfolio is in a strong place. We conduct the meetings with these schools mid-year to review their progress toward goals at the end of the year. This year in particular, we focused with the schools on any areas of improvement that we saw from last year's performance framework. There was great school board administration, and board leadership at each of the meetings. So I appreciated people just showing up for these meetings. And I would say it seemed like schools were in generally strong spirits across the board. They were quite positive meetings. So a few trends came up in the meetings that I wanted to just highlight. And these are in that summary for you too. So one trend is that across the portfolio so far this year, things could change, but so far this year, it looks like demand is up. So we know of at least 2 schools that are holding a lottery this month for the first time in the history of their schools. And other schools reported that they had higher interest than normal in students re-enrolling from one year to the next for next year, which is great to see. And that interest is just high in general. That was one trend. Another one is that so far this year, it looks like performance is moving in the right direction. So schools almost universally reported more positive NWEA, MAP, and ELA results this fall and winter, the ones they've taken so far, than they had in the spring of last academic year. And the AccuPlacer results for schools who've taken them already are looking positive too. So we're hoping to see those trends continue into the spring, but so far so good there. Also, a couple schools reported that they've seen a pretty large increase in students who are dual enrolled this year, so taking college courses. In general, as we know, the school satisfaction for charters is strong with those panorama survey results, and the schools that last spring had lower satisfaction results all noted plans that they have in place to improve the climate of their schools, such as introducing more clubs, additional events to the school. So that was interesting to hear. We learned that chronic absenteeism continues to be a challenge for schools. So the schools are working hard, but those numbers are not moving the way that we hope they would.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
I'm going through this kitchen renovation, unplanned, unwanted. But anyway, I found myself going through a pile of papers. It was about this high from the table because I'm a pile person. And I came across one where it was from when I was a legislator on the education committee, and it was a paper all about how concerned we were because the chronic absentee rateism was at 17%.
Yeah, I long for that number.
Yeah, and we were alarmed
Right.
at it. Just to put this in perspective.
Yes.
And at that time, we'd have thought 17% was what's going on here, guys?
Exactly,
What's
exactly.
happened?
Yep.
Wow.
It's, the anniversary, the 5-year anniversary of kind of when COVID started. So there was a big piece in the Times, is it today, this morning, I think I was reading it, about the implications of COVID and this being one of them, just like the deep disengagement with school that nationally we're seeing. And the effects of the isolation for that year on students and how that's still just something that we have not been able to rebound from and tackle nationwide. And I think we're seeing that here.
And I think, I was talking to one of the independent school, I serve on the board, and they're having this conversation amongst the independent schools. So it's not isolated to municipal or public high schools. And they've set a target of 10%. And they're trying to figure out what strategies would you have to employ to get to 10%? And how many resources would you have to allocate? And can you find the money to do it? And the independent schools have much more flexibility in their budgets than public schools. And I know I'm getting a report at our April board meeting about what strategies and how we're going to account for it in the budget. But it looks to me there's a lot of home school contact and not let me call you or email you or text you. It's let me knock on your door and have a conversation. Maybe that's an oversimplification, but it's kind of like all the traditional methods of contacting people that just kind of people are polite, but you don't see the needle moving much on that. So it looks like to really get at that issue, you've got to have it on a personal one-to-one or one-to-a-family relationship. And probably not a one-time knock on the door like, what are you doing? That there are reasons why. And so now you're really having to delve into areas which schools have been reticent to want to get involved with. I mean, we're an educational facility, but the other side of it, it's can't very well educate if you can't get them to school, which is, I think your point, it's been all
Yeah.
along, which is right on. So it is I think it's
Yeah,
a
and I
really
think-
tough issue.
I think this new thing of putting all work, all homework, everything's due online has had the unintended consequence. I mean, I think it's a wonderful thing because kids, parents, everybody can see what's due and when it's due. But it's has an unintended consequence of having kids feel like, oh, I can just do that.
Yeah.
I can just keep up with what's due. I don't have to go to class.
Yeah,
That
we've been running a pilot project this semester with 10 kids. And it's been that really intense personal contact. And we're seeing some movement, but it's not like we're 10 for 10. I think about 50% of the students, we've changed those dynamics, but the other 50%, it appears like not much is happening. In fact, we're starting to see some pushback for some parents feeling that the school is overstepping its what it should be doing. I don't think we've been told yet to mind our own business, but I suspect that's coming pretty soon. So it's more than I think a lot of this is symptomatic of cultural issues in our communities. So it's something that we're not very good at schools of tackling. Haven't wanted to get out there and get embedded in the communities. So I don't know.
I will say the schools are trying hard. The charter schools are trying hard. They're analyzing their data deeply with support from Count Me In, Jess Anderson. We're meeting monthly with her, having these attendance sessions, and she has strong suggestions. It's just a really, really tough issue to tackle. So we're not seeing the movement in those numbers that we would hope to see this year.
Yeah.
So my guess is unless things miraculously turn around in the spring, that you'll see that in the annual report this year.
I think the important thing is the effort. Because I think they will learn some things that are more effective than others.
Mhm.
So they can reprioritize their time and then maybe build off from that. So I don't think there is something you're gonna figure this out with one program in 1 year. I think this is gonna be a really thorny issue.
Mhm.
To get down to 17%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right.
Wow. Staggering. Okay, sorry, Lily, go ahead.
No, it's a good one to talk about. Joe mentioned earlier, we're still waiting for a few audits to come in. So we talked about that during the mid-year meeting. Sue, is it, Joe said 3, is that right? I thought it was 2. Is it 3?
It's 3.
So we're still waiting for 3 audits to come in. And those 3 have extensions that were granted with the Maine Department of Education. And they're due at the end of this month. So we're looking forward to seeing those. We heard from multiple schools, another trend in the meetings, we heard from multiple schools that they were encountering tech and access issues with the required board training, the online modules. It seems like boards have been trying hard to get their full board to do the trainings, and that people have been having legitimate issues. So we've been working with Board Network, the provider, to address some of those issues. We're not satisfied with their response. And so we are considering other board training options for next year. So, and moving away from them. Because that cannot be the barrier to the board training, the access issues. So we hear them loud and clear, and we're in the planning stages of other, alternative options for them. Which we will share more about soon as we have something to share. The other thing I would just note in the summary document in your packets, there was sort of a fun thing of note from each one of the schools, one for each school. So I won't report out on each of those now, but those are worth a read. Before I move into other updates, any questions on mid-year reports?
I have a question. Which schools are having the first time, I may have missed it, the lottery? We're doing. Which schools are doing?
Oh, no, I didn't say. So Means is having a lottery, and MEVA.
MEVA.
Yeah, and MEVA may have had one, but not since I've been here. So this will be first time that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And maybe others. Those are the ones I know about. Okay, let's talk about renewal timelines. So we have 2 schools, Acadia and Maine Arts, who are going to be going through their charter renewal process this spring and into next fall. The vote for that, kind of working backwards, so the commission vote to renew them for another 5-year term is in October. And so starting now-ish, a lot of work starts happening with those schools to get ready for that renewal vote. So a few kind of things to note with those, and those timelines are in your packet too. So this spring, our team, the staff team, is going to work with both of those schools to understand their data, understand how they're doing. And then we write the year 4 performance reports, which are due by the end of June, which is a summary of performance of the last 4 years for each of those schools. So you'll be seeing those this spring. And then over the summer, the schools complete the renewal applications, which is a bit of a lift for them. And then we evaluate the application, we conduct site visits, see classrooms, we have focus groups with teachers, with students, with families, and all of that data and information goes into renewal recommendations, which will go to the commission for your review and analysis. This will flow through the school performance committee. And then staff will issue that recommendation. and all that supporting data for you to consider before the October vote. Just knowing that those are coming up for those two schools, Acadia and Maine Arts. Any questions about that? Next update, the Panorama Survey is launching for this year. I know that's an important data point for us, so I wanted to let you know. So that's launching on Monday, March 17th. And we are encouraging schools to get those participation rates as high as possible this year. So we have a really deep understanding of the satisfaction rates for the various stakeholders involved in taking that survey. So staff, teachers, students, and families. Brian mentioned earlier this idea we talked about in the finance committee of the reclassification of the commission. And we talked about it in finance, it sort of came up organically. So I wanted to take a couple minutes just to talk a little bit about it as a full commission. So as Norm mentioned, we don't have the bill language or the hearing date yet, but we, the staff, have continued to work with different departments in the state to understand if this bill was to pass, what would implementation look like so that we can both be ready to testify, but also have an idea of how to kind of hit the ground running if this was to pass. So thank you, Senator Rafferty is the one sponsoring the bill for us. And the reclassification in general would allow us to have greater autonomy over our finances and operations. So a few examples of that, we would be able to hire our staff internally, and they would be employed by the commission, not employed by a temp agency. And so that is a big chunk of change that we would be saving there that could be redeployed elsewhere in not having to pay that temp agency fee. We would also have our own bank account and payroll, which would allow us to do contracting and bill pay, not through state procurement, which would give us increased flexibility over how to manage our own accounts and how to kind of choose and work with vendors, and just much more efficiency in terms of hours spent on that kind of work between Amy and Sue. I would anticipate a quarter of the amount of time that you currently spend on that work, potentially, maybe less. At least, maybe less. It's really a heavy lift. I've been working with Shirley Brown, the Deputy State Controller, on implementation options. She's been incredibly helpful. And also Paula Gravel, the Director of School Finance. She's provided helpful guidance. It looks like one of the kind of our big questions was, if we have this new reclassification, how do we get money from the state? So it seems like that'll come to us in a quarterly allocation. And one of Paula Gravel's ideas was that we basically become a vendor and they would direct deposit to us, which is sort of an easy way for it to flow through the MDOE into our bank account, which whatever bank we decide to establish that with. So we're hopeful that was, you know, Paula seemed to think that this was going to be an easy transition. So that was comforting to hear. Mostly, I just wanted to kind of bring this up again because we hadn't talked about it in a little while, and let you know that we're working on it. There will be some savings, so that will be exciting to think through how we can kind of redeploy some of those resources internally to schools. We have a lot to figure out still, a lot of small questions that we have. In terms of working with the MDOE to figure out, could we still access space in this building? I think the answer is yes, based on how other commissions function. I think I told you this, we found out we would still be able to work with the AG's office, which is great. So we would continue with that relationship internally. But as you have other questions, I'm happy to talk about them now. You can also just always email me, call me if something occurs to you. You know, hey, Lana, have you thought about this thing? It's helpful to hear.
That sounds like Tom.
I'll be anticipating your phone call and email, Tom.
An audit of our,
We will be, yes, so we would need to do audits.
of our work.
Yep, so we would have our own unique tax ID in this new structure, and our financials would be audited.
Would we be reporting that audit?
It would be a financial audit.
For the commission, but would it go further than that? Would it, just the commission itself would be reviewing the audit? The finance
That's my understanding.
committee, I would assume, be reviewing that audit. reporting back to the commission so that we have accountability.
Exactly.
And we had, so currently you guys are not under Maine State Retirement,
That's right.
but we had a supplement or something to pay for health insurance, is that?
Yeah, so the staff currently gets a stipend, so a monthly stipend
Okay.
that we kind of use for our own benefits.
Okay,
So that health, dental, retirement, there's flexibility in how we use that.
good. Well, let's not lose that.
Thank you.
Okay.
We appreciate that.
All right.
And you'll see in the budget this year, so we had made the collective decision that to receive that benefit stipend, we would want staff to work with us for a year. So Sue is at that mark now, and so those benefits will be kicking in for Sue soon too, which we're really happy about. Yeah.
Good.
Any other questions about?
And then cell phone will come under us and all those kind of costs. Well,
Yeah, you know, cell phone, actually, we already do purchase those independently, but the state IT, there are questions around that. So we will most likely be purchasing, kind of giving these back, purchasing our own laptops. And likely contracting with an external organization around sort of security, hardware maintenance.
web service, a website.
Yeah, so we would have our own website, a separate website, which I know Amy Allen is particularly excited about. She has some ideas for
Good.
her dream wish list of how to make a beautiful website. So we're gonna make those dreams happen for her if this all goes through.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the other question I have, so the balances that we carry
Yes,
as a commission. There's always the concern those funds get swept right now.
right.
Will they still be able to be swept or once those funds are transferred to us?
So I've done some digging into this to try and figure it out. The best that I understand right now is that those funds would stay where they are, the carryover funds. And that's similar to how we do it now. We would request those funds for particular purposes. So if, for example, next year we wanted to invest $150,000 of those funds into various things, we would submit that request. Those funds would come through to us, but the difference would be in this new model, those funds would just go straight to our bank account and we like our bank account,
So once we receive those funds,
they're in our bank account.
so it is some level of protection, not total.
And the oversight would be the commission,
Yes.
specifically the finance committee.
And we would create our own internal policy or financial control policies. So we would have policies around how much you can spend when you're traveling, food and drink, you know, those sorts of things that now there are some state policies we follow. We would generate our own policies and we would, you know, I feel like we are a conservative group in terms of being fiscally responsible and wanting to ensure that we're following sort of state guidelines around those pieces. So we would continue to do that.
Yeah, I would think we'd want to try to follow state guidelines as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
If not, you gotta explain why you're not.
Yeah, and there's no reasons.
Not much. Okay, well, good. Thank you. I'm,
Can I give a couple other updates?
glad-
Can I have a couple other updates?
sure.
Thanks. Apologies. Really only three more. I wanted to highlight what Tori said. So Travis is here, Community Regional Charter Schools on a school improvement plan. So there are several metrics that the School Performance Committee has expressed concern about in the past with CRCS. So namely academic performance, attendance, and student persistence. So students staying at the school long-term. So I worked with the school to create goals for how those particular metrics could be improved over time. The school frankly has done a great job of taking those goals and making them even more detailed and giving us even more frequent updates than we were asking for. So I'm very appreciative of that. And we're excited to see improvement in those areas. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll provide an update later this spring on how that's going. Tori had mentioned that the school performance committee also considered some contract language for Maine Virtual Academy during the meeting. So a little update on that. We are in the process right now of doing any revisions that we would want to do to MIBA's contract, because they went through renewal in the fall and then they signed their contract for the next 5 years by June of this year. They had proposed potentially changing some language around how they host their social events. Currently in the contract, it says they do virtual and in person, and they had proposed just changing it to virtual, live virtual, so kind of real-time virtual, which I think that request makes sense. They're a virtual school. They do everything virtually. School performance committee also said they want to see in person, which I think also makes sense based on the value we place in that kind of in-person socialization. So I brought that feedback back to the school. The school is very happy to accommodate that. So they are going to, they've already planned, in fact, some live in-person events for next year. And then finally, I promise this is my last one. Oh, please.
Yeah.
Believe that.
Oh, yeah, please.
So what's still hanging out there is whether or not they're going to submit the amendment or want us to include their suggested amendment on those meetings.
We're going to leave the language the same.
The language says the same, and they understand that we are not adopting the language that they propose.
They understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, that proposal's off the table.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have not required how many in-person events. We have not required what percent of the kids have to be there. You know, this is a pretty loose thing, but we think there's value in trying very hard to get the kids together. I mean, my point was that, you know, even the island schools, whatever consortium, they meet on land with all of their kids
Yeah.
a couple of times a year.
Yeah.
Because they see value in that.
The school really was very happy to make that accommodation.
Good.
Finally, I just wanted to let everyone know, Brian had mentioned this also, that we are contracting with a new communications and public relations group called PLT Strategies. They have been highly recommended by a variety of different people who I've spoken with nationally.
Where are they from?
They have several people who work for the organization that are spread out, sort of virtual right now. So the person that we're working with most directly lives in Rhode Island. And she is somebody, and I didn't even realize this when I first reached out to them, who I know quite well.
Oh,
And who I've worked with in the past. She was the PR person for a charter school operator that I worked for in Boston. So we have that shared history, and I always found her excellent then, and she is still excellent now. So I was very happy to see that. It gave me sort of a vote of confidence for the organization, knowing her going into it. So what we're contracting with them for this spring particularly is document creation around the Hall of Flags. So they're going to be meeting with Victoria, her name, is going to be meeting with each of the schools to interview them and then create a one-pager, which will promote that school, you know, knowledge build, some of the exciting things happening at the school. And then she's making one for the commission too, kind of a summary one-pager for all the charter schools. So we'll have those to perhaps put on the desks of legislators prior to the Hall of Flags. We'll have them for kind of Hall of Flags distribution material. It's the kind of thing some schools make them, but we've never had sort of that consistent material for the schools. So I think that'll be a really positive thing for us.
And just along
Yeah.
those lines, we've all experienced it when there are informational sheets distributed after be at the request of a certain representative. Having that been said, a way to speed up the process, at least, is have that printed when these are printed out in volume already, so that don't have to be a stamp or something like that.
What a good
So
idea.
we get a rep and a senator's consent to do
yeah, I
that.
forgot that.
What a
Yeah,
good idea.
It's a small
Yeah.
thing, but
And then have it printed on it
on it,
Yeah.
put it on
in
it.
advance.
in advance.
Yeah, well, once you have permission from the individual.
Exactly.
Then take it to the.
Yeah.
So go to, or to the speaker, I can't remember which, one of them to sign off.
I think the clerk. I believe it's the clerk.
I think it is. Always good to have the speaker's permission.
Oh, yeah.
We're putting some details together around what that Hall of Flags Day is gonna look like, and really excited for it. So as soon as I have more details around that, I'll let you all know.
I think also the monthly newsletter for each school ought to be out because they're always interesting and,
Yeah.
you know, have pictures and,
Or they
Great
can have
idea.
it set up at their table.
you know, yeah, just available at the tables.
There'll be food.
Yeah, we need,
Very important.
we need to figure out how that's gonna be handled.
Yeah.
We haven't had that discussion yet.
Yeah,
Okay, well, we have a little time. Anything else?
I promise I'm done now. Thank you for the
We-
floor.
So my comments would be, we appreciate all the hard work you and Sue and Amy do. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a really great team. I feel very fortunate.
You know, the only thing that I've run into difficulty in the Hall of Flags is everybody has to go through the screening and it takes time to do that. And a lot of kids carry pocket knives and just,
So tell them not to.
yeah. Tell them that they'll be going through a magnetron.
Not something I would have thought of. Okay. Thank you.
And the other thing is, it does take time. So
And it
whatever,
does take time.
so whatever time we're gonna want them here, better they're here waiting
Yeah.
and trying to rush up there.
Yeah.
Good point.
We'll have some performances. Heather and I have communicated about some students from Maine Arts coming to do some performances too. That's it.
Oh,
Yeah.
phew, I was afraid you meant we were gonna.
The commission will be
Yeah.
performing a
My dancing routine is.
impromptu.
Used to be.
Maybe we could stand up.
Well, we could try. Best have the kids come.
Yeah, let them do it.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, media updates, did you cover that?
I mentioned Baxter,
Right.
that's in there, so
Yeah.
you can check that out.
All right. So I don't think we have any business requiring any kind of votes or authorizations today. So I'm gonna skip to the back page here, future topics. I think you've already talked about. Anything else you want to add there, Lana?
No, I'm gonna figure out how to incorporate commission interviews into that April date, so we'll add that in.
Okay. I just want to remind the commission that we're going to need to appoint a nominating committee for officers for the commission coming up. If we in June, we have to decide if we're going to have a July meeting. If we don't, the actual election of the officers would be in August, if I'm correct.
That's right.
And I'm term limited, so. Ready? It's been so much fun. Yeah. I've enjoyed it, by the way. and Thank you all for
Yes, well. of
your
course.
support. It's been an honor and a pleasure, but it's time to have a new chair and vice chair. So all need to be thinking about that. And
Not me.
Well, and my term is up as well, so June 30th, so.
well, most of our terms are up
Yeah.
June 30th.
But from the state
We
board,
may not be here to vote in August. I just want to point that out. We might want to have the vote early, but I'm not sure we can.
Yeah.
I don't think we, I think,
Oh, we're not allowed to.
I tried to,
Yeah, we're not allowed to have the.
Lana spanked my hand and told me I couldn't do that.
Only because Amy spanked mine.
Oh. Anyway, I was told I couldn't do that.
so plus it's gonna make it difficult for these revisited schools in October to have a vote if somebody just comes on in September and they're voting in October to renew.
Yes.
So, I mean, that That happened with Harpswell, I think.
They did.
Timing for that is
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess all I can say is we individually and as a commission that don't get to control who's gonna be sitting here.
And I will say, you know, with all the data that you and Amy and Susan produce and show us, even if someone's just come on, I mean, it's pretty evident, you know, academically, financially, socially, you know, they're everything that you, the satisfaction level, the, you know, persistence level. I mean, if the person takes the time to look at the,
Yeah, that's true. It's there.
And I think the confidence,
so what I'm saying, they're not voting blindly, even if they just came on.
and I think the confidence level we have as commission members now with the staff we have.
Right, correct.
Which was not the fault of anybody at the time, but that just wasn't present. at the
Correct.
time. On that transition, so. I think you're absolutely right. There'll be a wealth of information and data for people. And I'm assuming the commission will remain relatively the same, but if they don't get to it, we'll all be sitting here because there'll be nobody to replace us. Until they do. Kind of a convoluted system we have, but that's how it works. I don't think there's anything else that we need to talk about. It's all right here for you to look at, next meetings, etc. Any other comments, questions? Amy, do you have anything you'd like to add? You've been very quiet today.
I have been very quiet
Are you
today. It's
working
just
on
been
your
nice to
website?
take it all in.
Are you working on your website on the side?
No,
No, that's why you're quiet.
no, but in all, I mean, I'm combining new school application rubrics.
Yeah.
So that's what my life consists of right now. Thinking it was going to be a quick job. I
Yeah.
was wrong. I was wrong. I think I've spent as much time combining rubrics now as the review team did in reviewing the applications, but
Oh, goodness.
so that's what
Wow,
that's why I'm quiet back here. I'm very busy.
I will say proactively and very kindly reached out to me and said, I know you're spending so much time reviewing the applications. What if I take the logistical task of combining all three into one so it's easier to compare them? And now she's living with the consequences of that kind offer.
My
Thank you.
husband reminds me that no good deed goes unpunished.
I will try to keep that in mind. So with that, I'm going to close the meeting. So I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much. 2:24.
Great day, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
James.
Thanks for reading all those.
Hi, Brian.
Goodbye. Nice to see you.
Bye, James.
Sorry. Wendy is organizing a Bagel Mania lunch tomorrow.